Good evening from the studios of WIUR underneath Penta Student Union. Welcome to the WIUR NFL Draft Special hosted by us at Into the Stands. I'm your host for tonight, Ray Basil, alongside my incredible co-host, Colin McGee and Chris Gambino. And of course, tonight, as we've said before, we have some special guests. And kicking it off tonight, we have the college football fanatic joining us this evening. So without further ado, we had so much news go on recently. But let's start with the news from tonight, from earlier today. We have Lamar Jackson signing because we do have it out an hour till the NFL draft begins. Is we'll be able to watch the picks from over there and tell you guys, break down some of our players. We'll go more into the draft in a little bit, but right now, I feel like it's only right for you to start with us this evening. What are your thoughts, and how big is this for the Ravens to get a deal done with Lamar Jackson?
It's pretty big. They secured their quarterback, so they obviously are not going to be taking one in the draft early on, and they had questions, but this is going to tie up a lot of cap space considering how much they guaranteed, which I think was somewhere like 185
around that.
Yeah, and so Lamar Jackson I think is a really great quarterback. I think he could do better in accuracy of his throws, but he's a demon on the ground. So I think this is a great retainment for the Ravens.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it a few weeks ago, the whole issue with his contract and the possibility of him, was it not attending practices?
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a huge mess that potentially could have occurred, but thankfully for them, it didn't. So they get some security in that position, and they needed it.
Look, it's been a really long, weird saga that we've seen here at Lamar Jackson. Obviously, there's that whole situation last year where he could have possibly been able to play in that playoff game against Cincinnati, but he still sat out. People feel that he did that in case of possibly getting more hurt. So it really seemed like there was a period where this deal would not be done. I didn't think it was going to happen because we saw just for so long the Ravens and Lamar Jackson basically go against each other. But even without a real agent, I think his mom was his agent throughout this entire process. He still gets this deal done for the highest contract for a quarterback in NFL history.
I thought he was representing himself.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah, I thought he was representing himself.
Yeah, which is really impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact he was able to get this done, all credit to him. But just in general, I think that when you saw the Ravens go out and make that move for Odell Beckham Jr., you knew that they were trying to appeal to him. There's still possible rumors that maybe they were looking at DeAndre Hopkins. That's a name we could see get moved tonight. I think they could also be maybe in play for a receiver in this first round. They want to, continue to beef up the weapons for Lamar Jackson. But yeah, definitely a player who deserves it. I think that Lamar Jackson obviously showed himself former MVP. Obviously all the accolades, all the accomplishments. So I think it's just good to see him get paid, and this saga's finally kind of past us.
I mean, we can continue with the idea of sagas as we're about 50 minutes till the official start of the draft before Goodell goes to the podium and says like 20 words, and then we start. And then the Panthers would be on the clock. Let's go to another team that has a saga conclude a couple of days ago with Aaron Rodgers. I'll start my thoughts being the Jets fan in the room, repping the Jets merch, of course. It was an interesting saga. One that I did not think was going to take this long. But Aaron Rodgers is such a game changer that the Jets would need. I mean, at the end of the day, you knew this was going to happen. As soon as he said those words on the Pat McAfee show, you knew this was getting done. Question was, how long would it take? I thought it took too long. I think everyone would agree it took too long. But at the end of the day, the Jets moved. I think less than I would have originally expected. Though that other pick they threw out that could turn to a first next year, I think was the part that they weren't trying to do. Knowing Joe Douglas does not like to move first round picks. You saw in the saga for Tyreek Hill last year. I mean, but the package he would have given out would have been value-wise better than what the Dolphins gave for Tyreek Hill. But let's get your thoughts on it. Aaron Rodgers to the Jets. What do you think this changes the move that the way they go for the draft tonight? Possibly going offensive tackle or maybe going on defense? What do you think the Jets would do in this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it does change because now you have a veteran quarterback. You don't have a guy who I think can barely play out of BYU, Zach Wilson. I don't think he's ever going to develop into anything more than he is right now. I mean, I remember when the season was just starting and he was like, getting votes that he was going to be MVP just because of the thing, I think, with his mom's friend.
Yes.
That was the only reason I saw, I saw like watching the draft 2 years ago now, and seeing, him just going up and up and up. And I was like, who is this kid? And I watched his film and I didn't see anything that would suggest he would be, successful in the NFL. I just did not see it on his film. And so it was so bad to see Jets. They've also drafted terribly in the past 10 to 20 years.
There was no other draft in the last 10-ish years. Mark Sanchez,
Geno Smith,
of course.
Yeah, Geno Smith.
Sam
Sam Darnold was not it either.
Hackenberg.
Yeah. So it's great to see them go a different route than drafting a quarterback and not and being able to have a quarterback that's already well into his career and not having to, develop much more, and who is a solid quarterback. So they have pieces around him. An offensive tackle would be nice to see, and maybe some upgrades on the defense.
You guys want to talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, you guys said it best. I mean, we've been talking. It seems like years now that we've been talking about this, right? The Jets needing a quarterback, but even on this show, right? You, of course, Robbie, big Zach.
You don't need to rub it in on me. I still think the dude has potential, and I forgot to mention this when I made the comments previously. I think Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets, I think, will help Zach Wilson. Will he become into a full-fledged star like he was projected to? I'm not sure. We don't know, but I think you talked about him rising for no reason. Every year that they have that one quarterback who comes out of nowhere. My quarterback for this year, I'll just mention the name I have. I don't like Will Levis. I think he's this year's Josh Rosen. He's all right, but he's struggled in big games. Not mentioning any specific. Vanderbilt away, but at the end of the day, I think Zach Wilson behind Aaron Rodgers, his idol. And we saw it in the preseason. Them talking and Wilson saying Rodgers is his idol. I feel like the leadership from Rodgers, if he's any left, will help Zach Wilson develop more. That veteran presence, that true veteran presence, not Joe Flacco, but a dude who's actually been more talented than Joe Flacco's won Super Bowl.
And where do you think Wilson's career future? What do you think that's gonna be?
So what I'm thinking would happen next would be have Rodgers finish the contract with the Jets. Right. Zach Wilson, I believe that would be his 4th or 5th year. I don't know what it would be. I say you take the 5th year option anyway, and if he's learned anything at all, that's when you go with Zach Wilson. That's really the year. The Jets have multiple players recently go into their 5th year option have either panned out or flopped. And we actually have one upcoming soon with Mekhi Becton, who's heading towards the end of his contract, and the flop he's been for being injured so much. I think the dude's played less games than Zach Wilson played last season. It's something close. But I remember, I feel like you can attest to this, seeing how much hype there was about Zach Wilson's second season and then almost destroying his ACL, and Jets fans losing their minds, myself included. I was at a baseball game for them, and then I saw the news. I'm like, well, we're done. And then Mike White and Joe Flacco, I guess, got us. And then Zach Wilson won us. Remember, Zach Wilson won the most games with the Jets last year. Granted, he looked awful in that one game against New England. He's looked awful multiple times. The dude has gone out and won you a game or two by himself, especially in the 4th quarter. You look back at that game with Buffalo, he made some crucial throws in that game. So I still think Zach Wilson's potential. Is it with the Jets, though? I don't know. This is kind of turning out the way Sam Darnold finished.
We talked about you needed to make the trade.
Oh, no, I know. Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Remember that show where you were saying you'd rather re-sign Quentin Williams first and get Aaron Rodgers?
That was bold. I
don't know about that. But,
hey, with the cash space we now have, because they freaking gave Aaron Rodgers his contract next year is something out of this world, $90 million if all the money gets paid to him based on bonuses and stuff. It's something ridiculous now. But I feel like right now the Jets' next priority should be Quentin Williams. solidify that interior defense. I think Quinn Williams is your best defensive player, or one of, other than Sauce in the secondary.
Well, how do you
But
feel about him wearing number 8?
ooh, I mean, I feel like it's a very. I mean, he didn't want to steal from Broadway Joe. That's what he said.
Yeah. Although
Bro-
Jordan did say he could wear it.
I know, and
Yes.
respect to that.
But listen, right?
I
This
mean,
is
I don't
the
know.
Jets had to make. Obviously, they haven't had a guy. I mean, maybe their best quarterback over these years has been Chad Pennington in the past 30 years.
So I think Sanchez would count.
I mean, Sanchez
before
could have,
Pennington.
right? But Sanchez only really had 2 years. I mean, he was.
And then he fell off.
Of course, yeah. But that's just been the problem with the Jets. Now, even if it's just like 1 or 2 year rental, this can maybe have the same effect that it was for Tampa Bay. You remember the Tampa Bay Buccaneers obviously trading for Tom Brady. Also, like the Jets had a losing culture for a long time. If Aaron Rodgers could come in there, break that playoff drought, I think it would kind of change the notion of what the New York Jets are. So I think that just in general, I think this is a good trade for the Jets. Obviously, I'm sure you're very excited, but let's see what he does. It's gonna be fun, just seeing the Jets relevant again. We haven't seen that in a while, so it'd be interesting to watch.
I mean, I do remember the butt fumble. But when to somebody who doesn't watch a ton of pro football, I watch the Bears and I watch like the playoffs, and that's about it. To have the biggest news that I remember being a preseason MVP from Zach Wilson is that's how large it was. That's how much everybody was talking about it. But yes, currently the Jets are projected are going to be taking the 15th pick. So around there, you could have obviously an offensive tackle, but they might try to go a different route, which is wide and draft a really young wide receiver.
I mean, because the way the Jets are constructed, you have 5 decent. You have, of course, G-Dub, Garrett Wilson, 1,000-yard receiver, absolute stud. You signed McCole Hardman and Alan Lazard. You also have Corey Davis, who I feel like they can either restructure. I think they might cut him. It's possible for the base salary that he has. You also have a guy they still have faith in for some reason in Denzel Mims. And then they have like some others, but we don't talk about them. I feel like if they want to go receiver, that's an interesting route. I don't know if that was one of their bigger needs. I thought safety would be an interesting. Brian Branch from Alabama. I mean, there's some other needs. I think they can go safety maybe in the 3rd round. Jordan Battle is the name I was looking at. I've loved Jordan Battle. I think he's extremely underrated. But Jets going wide receiver would be an interesting move. I mean, offensive tackle, your need now is to protect Aaron Rodgers at all costs. And I feel like the Jets my net needs for them would be tackle, center, safety, linebacker, because outside linebacker is kind of mid. Safety, I mean, Jordan Whitehead and LaMarcus Joyner, all they knew how to do was kill people. So, I mean, Jordan Whitehead literally took off the helmet of someone, like hard on hit, took a guy's helmet off. But
yeah, I mean, I would not put wide receiver. I would not put wide receiver anywhere near the top of their needs. But knowing how dumb GMs and that draft room can be, specifically that Jets draft room. I don't put anything past GMs and draft rooms at all on draft day, because it can get absolutely maddening and absolutely crazy, and sometimes it's just you go full send on a random pick and you're like, the next day, what did we do?
I think the Raiders would be. I think the Raiders, the Patriots, Green Bay drafting Jordan Love, even though that now people think that looks like immaculate because of the Rodgers situation. But I think this is a good question for everyone. What's a player? I think you'd be with your college football knowledge. What's one player, if you have like the research done, what's one player that you think is going to fall? Probably like say they're a top 10 value, but they can fall a lot just solely based on like every year. I'm going to go first because I actually have a odd answer for this. Every year there are those players that are accustomed to falling for like little reasoning. GMs is thinking they're not as good as their rankings show. Mine this year, but last year, what was I don't even remember mine from last year, honestly. But this year, I'm going with Bijan Robinson. I don't think that's going to be a very popular option. Bijan Robinson projected to be a top 10 pick. Here's my reasoning. Bijan Robinson, extremely good talent, generational running back. 2 problems with that. One, it's a running back. And the way that the running backs are paid now and the way that how long their careers are, I don't really think you'd want to take a guy like him in the top 10, even though he's compared to such good running backs. And secondly, he's met with 2 teams. Two teams. Philadelphia, who's trying to move up for a pass rusher now, and Tampa Bay. Which in my mock draft, if you've listened on Saturday, I had the Buccaneers moving up to 21 and able to, because I originally had them moving down, then moving back up again, having around 21. That would be an interesting spot for him to go. But at the end of the day, I think my pick would be Bijan, solely based on the way that running backs go right now. What would be your pick?
Bijan is definitely a good option. Another one that I think has the possibility, but I don't think he's going to slide, from like 5 to 20 or anything like that, is actually, I think Jalen Carter could slide from like probably, I think he's like a top 3 talent in this draft. But I think he could slide to, 7 or 8 or something like that. I think that's purely based on the fact that he came to his pro day overweight. He still has some legal troubles to get past. GMs do not love that. When you're drafting, if your player that you're drafting is going to be, tied up in legal troubles for the next, 2 to 3 years or something like that, you really don't want that. But I think, Jalen Robinson is somebody, but I think he's just too good that, GMs are going to be like, I'll take the risk that is associated with it rather than just let it go.
Keep sticking with Jalen Carter for a second. Do you feel like one of those teams around that 5 to 8 range that he would fit on the best?
So
I have one, but I don't know, because you.
I really like the Detroit Lions for him. With their pick of Aiden Hutchinson, who was, in my opinion, the best defensive rookie last year. I think he had more interceptions than Sauce Gardner, and Sauce Gardner's position gives him more chance.
He's not wrong.
So, and I think he had 11 sacks. And so he was just a menace on the edge. And I think he's going to be a menace on the edge in this league for a long time. And I think his combination with Jalen Carter could absolutely disrupt, NFL offenses for the next 4 years. I think it could be a completely wrecking ball of a defensive line. It really is. It really is that important, in my opinion.
Colin, you got a name for us?
We're starting to see rumors of CJ Stroud possibly falling, which I'm not sure if I'm sold on, because we heard there was rumors of this test score that came out. But I'm gonna go with Will Levis, and I
thank you.
The reason why I'm looking at this draft board, say if there's no trade up, I think that Houston takes a quarter. I think Carolina takes a quarterback, Houston takes a quarterback, and Indianapolis takes a quarterback. Now, I think that might mean Levis could slide down because we've heard about the Tennessee Titans looking for a quarterback possibly being in that mix. I don't think it's a huge, way far out there possibility that Levis could still be on the board when the Titans pick at 11. I'm not sure if Levis is their guy, but I just think that when you're looking at Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, I think you kind of know that they're both kind of project guys. They're both raw at the moment, but I think Anthony Richardson has a higher upside. I think we can agree on that. So I think that Will Levis does fall down the board a little bit because always you see that. You remember the 2019 draft with Dwayne Haskins, how he was viewed as a top prospect, but obviously Daniel Jones got picked over him. Haskins fell down to 15. So I think that it's very possible that we could see Will Levis possibly go down to the teens, maybe early 20s. So looking forward to seeing how the quarterback market definitely shapes up for sure, because that's always one of the biggest stories in the draft where the quarterbacks end up. But I'm going to go Will Levis.
It's a tough question. I do agree, though, with Colin. Stick with Will Levis. I feel like, obviously, the teams at the top that are going to pick quarterbacks, I just have a feeling that Will Levis is kind of going to be behind. Possibly trade up, right? That's been a rumor that we've seen. Looking around here, I see one guy. I'm not sure. I don't know too much about this in general, but his name is Peter Skoronski.
Yeah, I have him falling as well.
Right. Yeah.
That one tackle that falls for no reason.
Right, doesn't have an exact position. I'm pretty sure is his issue.
He's very versatile.
Yeah.
Right,
I think that would help
No, absolutely.
I feel like it's something. I heard something.
Yeah,
He has
no.
longer arms or something.
So what I've heard about Skoronsky was the other name I was thinking of. Skoronsky or Darnell Wright was the other name I was thinking of. And Skoronsky, he's been versatile. He's listed as an interior offensive lineman, but this is why I don't want him on the Jets because we already have two fantastic offensive guards in Laken Tomlinson and Elijah Vera Tucker. But Skoronsky, I feel like is versatile. I feel like he can play everywhere. I mean, I don't really know if he played the center much, but other than center, let's go other than center. He's probably like. And the long arms could be a problem, maybe prone to more penalties. But Skoronsky, I don't know. That's interesting.
There's not a lot of interior offensive linemen. I mean, I know Osiris Torrance is his name.
Cyrus Torrance.
But like, I feel like that if you're a team that needs guard help, I say why would you not take him?
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I think that Skoronsky has a lot of value. I'm not sure if he falls, but I think a team's going to get a good player at the end of it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I want to touch back on Anthony Richardson and my fan base. It's not very large, but my fan base knows that I absolutely despise the hype around Anthony Richardson. I have him listed as a 3rd round talent at this point in his career. I have him listed as a 3rd round talent, and I'm going to tell you why. So I have him. So the pros that I have him are he has great size. He is just built like a Mack truck.
Same size as Levis.
Yeah, he does have the same size, but he is huge. He has elite arm strength and he has great speed. But while I was watching his tape, he missed open players pretty consistently. There were times where I was watching him and it's like you're like, you can throw that ball. Like it's not, he might run occasionally, but like sometimes he was throwing it to players that were not nearly as open as a player that might be 10 yards down the field. Yeah. He sometimes scrambled a little early, so he showed some problems in decision making. He had a very high touchdown to interception ratio, which was it's about 2-1. To put it in perspective, Bryce Young's touchdown to interception ratio is a 6-1. So that's huge. His accuracy is a bit lower. And talking about strictly mechanics, he plays a lot on his toes.
I did notice that.
Yeah. So his feet is not always set. And I don't always love the fact that sometimes quarterbacks, when they're a 1-year starter, get placed so highly. Okay. I thought he could have used a little more development in college.
I agree. No, I think a big thing with that, though, I mean, the hype around Anthony Richardson, I was able to watch his game on week 1 when he played against Utah, and I come from behind. The throws he was making were out of this world. But you were talking about, I mean, my big thing with him will be how consistent will he be? Yeah. I mean, he's another dude who lost to Vanderbilt, like bad in the SEC this season. But I think a big thing that could help with him, you talked about him being raw. He's 21. I believe he's like 20 or 21. He's young. I think he can fit with a lot of teams. I feel like he would be perfect as a risk move in Houston. I feel like I originally had Houston taking CJ Stroud and then drafting Ohio State wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I want to throw out possibly Seattle.
Seattle would be interesting
because I feel like him sitting behind Geno Smith for a year or two, that might be the perfect situation.
I mean, my mock draft, I was thinking Vegas would move up because of Garoppolo. I mean, is Jimmy Garoppolo really your long-term fit if you're Vegas? I mean, they have a chance to get Christian Gonzalez, Trey Lance. They could trade for Trey Lance. That would actually be a very interesting fit.
But I like that Seattle move because obviously, you have a great coach in Seattle that is proven to develop quarterbacks well. And you obviously have Geno Smith, who has been in the league for a little while and knows this league pretty well. He's played on several different teams. So, having him there to kind of guide Anthony Richardson, who I think is more of a project player than most people do, having him there and allow him to learn, in the good situation, I think Anthony Richardson can absolutely turn into a beast in this league. And it's no hate to Anthony Richardson, but I just think he is more of a project player. But I hope that I eat my words, this time next year, and we're seeing him, fling that rock all over, this field. So I really like that.
There's two different ways it can go, right? Because we saw a project work out in the case of Lamar Jackson, but we also just recently saw Malik Willis and how that didn't work.
That was
so. I
feel like Malik Willis was thrown into a bad spot because of Tannehill.
Absolutely, yeah. But that's the point though. He went in too early. He was not ready to play those games. So for Richardson, you just hope that he does get drafted to a place where he'll be able to sit behind a guy. That's why also I saw maybe, I don't know if they do it, but Detroit's also another option that got thrown out there. Teams that have kind of a quarterback who they like, but maybe not the franchise guy. But yeah, I think that if Richardson's going to get the most out of his abilities, most out of his talent, he can't be the starter right away. I think that you have to kind of hold off on that.
I mean, if you really want to go risky, I mean, Houston. I feel like Houston can be the one that signs a veteran quarterback and starts him over Richardson. I mean, I'm trying to think about another way to put this, but the Bears did something similar with Justin Fields. Remember, Justin Fields did not start his first game. In the first game that the Bears had, they waited a little bit. I think they waited. I mean, this is more of a testament to Matt Nagy not knowing what he was doing, but because Justin Fields looked good in his first season, and then Nagy gets fired, and then I was on here saying that he has I think he has less touchdowns or less some stat than Cooper Kupp receptions or something. I think less completed passes than Cooper Kupp receptions or something at one point in the season. But Justin Fields, they really let him, and this is what I wish the Jets let Zach Wilson do, is they let him use his legs. That is what made him so much better. At the end of the day, the reason Justin Fields was able to be so much better, not because the Bears traded for a wide receiver in Chase Claypool, which helped them a little, but he used his legs. He was getting over 100 rushing yards a game. Or at one point, it was over 110. So Justin Fields, I think, I do wish he went to the Jets, but that injury in the college football playoff dropped his stock a little bit. So right now, going back to project quarterback stuff, I think Anthony Richardson, Houston would be a very interesting one. Him working with D'Amico Ryans, I feel like would be a very interesting fit in Houston. But I feel like if you see him as a long-term option and you have a way to develop him, I don't know. I feel like Houston at 2, though. Last time a quarterback was selected at 2 was Zach Wilson. Do you think he could become the next Zach Wilson, which is not?
I want to say that there's been a report that's come out that the odds have jumped up to CJ Stroud becoming likely the number 2 pick. This came out.
I mean, that's what my mock draft originally said until the news about that test score. What do you get? 18%?
Yeah,
absolute stud. 18%.
Yeah. Well, it's also I do not put as much stock in the S2 because everything that I see on the field says that he is so much better than that. Absolutely. Just so much better than that. And I can't see him, he might have bombed that test on purpose. I don't know, but I highly doubt that he did it on purpose, but I can't see how he gets an 18 on this. And then, he plays like he does against Georgia, which, is by far the best defense in college football for the past 2 years. And it's so incredible that he got that. When that came out, I was like, man.
I mean, I didn't even know the dude in second was.
Yeah, you're bringing up that Georgia game because we remember obviously how much of just a blowout the national championship game was, 65-7. So seeing how CJ Stroud did do against that defense, especially when TCU couldn't get anything done, which also Quentin Johnson is their name we're waiting to hear tonight, possibly.
Giants, take him, please. Make my mock draft look right.
Yeah, definitely. Though CJ Stroud having a game against Georgia, I think really helped the stock.
I
think that might be able to
news.
kind of help persuade some teams maybe against that test score. But yeah, it's kind of hard to imagine him getting an 18%, definitely.
And all right, we actually have 2 pieces of news that I just found out. I just got notifications about. Per sources, the Tennessee Titans are trying to move up to the number 3 selection or trade for DeAndre Hopkins. Tennessee does have cap space to make moves. I don't know what you would trade for. What would you trade for DeAndre Hopkins? Because my thing was the big selling point would be, does Arizona retain salary? I think that's what a lot of teams are waiting to hear in order for a move to be done with DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, I would say retain 25% salary, and then Tennessee can throw you some extra late round pick that they're never going to develop anyone with. But I feel like Tennessee would be a weird fit. This would have to mean that, the AFC South is such a mess that I think Tennessee adding DeAndre Hopkins, putting with Traylon Burks would be a very interesting fit because they're both very similar. They're both tall. They're both can be explosive, but I don't know. Tennessee for DeAndre Hopkins? What are your thoughts on this? It's a very weird idea.
It is weird. And what I would trade for him, he is older, so he doesn't have as much time left. So I wouldn't give away a first round pick.
No, there's no way.
No way.
There's no way.
I would give like maybe a second or a third, and then a second or a third this year, and then a late round pick next year, and then that's probably about it. But I don't pay attention to so many trades, so I'm not the expert to talk about this with.
And you got any words before I go into the next trade? Because there's a big one that's actually developing right now. I mean, we've teams are calling up to possibly move for Jalen Carter. Detroit and Seattle are possibly getting trade calls, as well as Arizona for the third pick to be involved with someone possibly drafting Jalen Carter. I think everything's going to come down to who the heck does Houston take? Do they go quarterback or do they go Anderson at 2?
Well, my problem is if they go for Anderson, what's going to be their quarterback option? They're just going to
tank for Caleb. Tank.
Are you going to punt away another year, especially if it's Nico's first year? I mean, maybe it's a possibility, but I don't know.
I mean, it's a weird. I mean, Houston's also in the mix for this. I mean, they have another first round pick at the number 12 selection, which would be very weird for them because I mean, I thought they would go receiver with their other pick, maybe tie up CJ Stroud with Jackson Smith and Jigba, both of them having that good connection, and Houston's receivers being kind of trash. But at the same time, I don't know. I mean, Jalen Carter would be a big upgrade for them. Oh, I thought they were talking about Jalen Carter for a second on TV, but they're talking about Anthony Richardson. But right now, I mean, Jalen Carter, I think a team that would really fit him. I mean, they mentioned Detroit, Seattle. I think the Falcons would love him. I mean, their defensive line they were last in every defensive line category from last season by a country mile, especially in sacks. It was not even close. So I think Atlanta would be I feel like should move up probably about 2 or 3 picks. They can really make a big move for themselves because the NFC South, it's a toss-up between possibly New Orleans, Tampa Bay, depending on who plays quarterback for them, and the Falcons. I feel like the Falcons, if they make the right moves in this draft, I feel like they can still find a way to win this division. If Desmond Ridder develops. If Desmond Ridder doesn't play well, it's all over for them. I mean, Marcus Mariota not being their starter, I feel like is a problem because Desmond Ridder did not really prove much last season. Remember that. So at the same time, I don't know. I mean, the Falcons are in a very interesting spot. I mean, I have them taking Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech as an edge threat. I mean, they have like Calais Campbell, and that's really about it. Oh, and Grady Jarrett, that was the other one.
Well, quick word on Jalen Carter real quick. I believe before all this off the field problems happened, he was kind of projected as like the best defensive player, the best player in the class.
He was top 2, yeah. So, he still is top 2. So I don't.
All right. With all take away the pre-draft stuff, take away obviously the off the field situations, him coming to the combine. Do you feel that he is a better player or has higher upside than Will Anderson, or no?
I mean, I don't know.
People think Will Anderson's a safer pick. Do you think that
Jalen
Carter has better upside?
I don't know. I mean, at the same time, because you remember, Will Anderson had a good season at Alabama. I think Jalen Carter's stock rose because of how good the defense was at Georgia and his impact at Georgia on that defensive line. So it's a very interesting pick. I personally, like, if you're say the Falcons move up to like 3, no, I don't think they do, and you have both of them possibly on the board, it's going to come down to what your team's needs are. And I think Will Anderson would be a better fit for a team like Atlanta. Whether it be a team like Detroit, I think Jalen Carter would be better because of the impact, because they really don't have much interior pressure. But from the edges, I mean, you have Aiden Hutchinson. That's really all you need in the short term. But as we see the aforementioned Will Anderson heading towards the green room, as we're around 20 minutes till draft time, but I feel like you should get your opinion on this question as well.
Yeah, so Detroit obviously has Aiden Hutchinson on the edge, and there's also another player on the opposite side of the edge. I can't remember his name. Yeah. And I really loved his play this year. But Jalen Carter, yes, he was on the best defense in college football, but to make a name for himself on that defense proves that he is a step above the other players, because you don't just make a name for yourself on a great defense just because you're on a great defense. Like, there is other ways to make a name for yourself. And Will Anderson also being, on the team that he is at Alabama, that automatically puts him in. But he was in the Heisman, remember, last year, in the Heisman talks. He didn't get invited, and I really think he should have. But he was definitely in those talks. So for me, Will Anderson is absolutely the safer pick. He is more of a finished product coming out, and he's likely to perform more as a starter in his first year. But you definitely, I don't know if you can miss on that defensive tackle talent that Jalen Carter has. It's really hard to say. I'm passing on that.
Yeah, it is difficult. As like I said, we're about 20 minutes away from the draft. Is that Bryce Young? I don't know. CJ Stroud. Yeah. But I think one player I do want to talk about Bryce Young real quick, because there's been all this talk about him. I mean, the comparisons I've been seeing recently have been Kyler Murray because of his size. I mean, he's been one of those undersized quarterbacks that can move, throws the deep ball. I think Bryce Young, we all agree that Bryce Young is the best quarterback in the draft, but I just remember this question because I want your opinion on this. The dilemma with Will Levis and those betting odds going down. I mean, I don't know. It was kind of weird, like the whole situation. Like, do you want to talk about that real quick? There's not much to talk about, but like you talk about Will Levis, Bryce Young, like
yeah. So obviously Bryce Young is a player that he's a great player, and I have no hate for him, but I don't like his size at all. He is 5'10" and 185. And I see a lot of Tua comparisons. I see him possibly getting hurt in this league. And I also see a lot of Drew Brees comparisons, but the difference is that Drew Brees is 2 inches taller and his frame is a bit different. Now, Bryce Young might be like his size might be enough that he's like one of those like rubber band players where it's just every single time they get hit, they're perfectly fine and bounce back up. And you don't know that until they get to this league, because the players are bigger, they're faster, and they definitely hit harder. But it's that is a concern for me. And for that, I always thought, CJ Stroud would have been my number one. If I were GM, CJ Stroud would have been my number one, and Bryce Young definitely my number two. But I don't think he can slip past a number, like a number 3 or 4 pick. It just isn't possible. And I do think he is going to be the number one overall by far. I don't think it's any competition.
And that Will Levis stuff, was it yesterday or Tuesday, that Will Levis stuff? Because for context, Will Levis's betting odds are going to the first pick, as we actually have someone I don't know what's going on. I think it's the introduction of the players. Yeah. But Will Levis's draft odds went from plus 4,000 at the first selection to plus 440, solely because based on like allegedly someone telling Levis that he was gonna be the first pick. I don't know the full story about it, but I mean it was kind of odd. But I mean,
that's absolutely
nuts. Why would you release that? I mean, what's the point? I mean, other than changing people's lives because of the betting odds. I mean, I heard people today taking the plus 4,500 at one point on Anthony Richardson going too. I mean, there's been a lot of crazy draft odds that have skyrocketed up or down because of recent news. I mean, my mock draft. I mean, some player. I mean, if you remember my stream on Saturday, I said Rodgers was not going to get moved before the draft. Yeah, I lied. It happened on Tuesday, but going towards the last 15 minutes before our stream, before the first hour of our stream is done, I know you follow this more than us. Give us a player who you think is really underrated around the 10 to 20 range that can really make an impact in this league. I know I think there's a decent amount.
Yeah, I can give you a player whose draft stock dropped dramatically, but who I think is a phenomenal player. Hendon Hooker.
Ooh.
Yeah, his injury really hurt his stock. Like there's talk that he's going to be going second round. But if he were still healthy, I think he totally could have gone first round. A player though who I think is going to be going, 10 to 15, and who I also think is really good is Miles Murphy.
Ooh,
At the edge.
That was the other player.
Yeah.
For no reason,
Yeah, so I think he could potentially go. He's really good. I really like him at Clemson.
I like that one. My player that let me pull up my mock draft real quick because I still have my notes here. My big guy that I had moving up in that 10 to 15 range was a Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. I love him around the edge. What I loved about his game more than the tape I was really able to watch, he's really shifty. He makes the move around the edge, or he has that cut back inside move, that swim move to both sides. He also can cover a little bit. We saw that a little bit at Iowa, especially playing in the Big Ten where there's been some decent pass rushers like Aiden Hutchinson. I feel like Lucas Van Ness, I didn't have Tennessee trading down or trading up, in this draft. I had him going to Tennessee. Another one that I feel like could be interesting. I had Skoronski. I feel like another guy who can make an impact, Dalton Kincaid from Utah, tight end. By the way, my only tight end to go in the first round this year. I feel like there's going to be multiple tight ends that fall. But Dalton Kincaid, I have him going to the Lions. The Lions love their tight ends. I don't know what it is. They had the tight end that was traded to Minnesota. I'm forgetting his name. But they love using their tight ends. And I feel like in a scheme that needs that, you want an elite pass catching tight end. I think Dalton Kincaid at 18 would be phenomenal value for them. Maybe they move up for Kincaid. Maybe they move down and can still get him. But I feel like Dalton Kincaid would be the other guy I feel like can go up or down a little bit still in this draft because he was originally ranked around the 20s-ish a couple of weeks back in around January-ish. And Dalton Kincaid by some is ranked in the top 15. So
well, I just want to go back to the talk about guys who you feel could definitely make an impact in the league. And obviously he's probably going to go 10 to 15, but I feel so confident that Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be a star receiver because we look back at that Ohio State team. Obviously he got hurt in 2022, but in 2021, he had more receptions than Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson.
That's true.
Both those two guys obviously went first or got drafted high. Both were very successful in the league. So I definitely do believe that Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be a great player in this league. And whatever team gets him is probably going to get a number one wide receiver. Chris, what prospects would you say you like?
This one I'm looking at here, Nolan Smith. Possibility. I know
It's an interesting one.
Right. I've heard possibility of him. I just looking at one person's mock draft. Had him going 10 to Philadelphia.
That's an interesting one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think he had an injury.
That's my mock draft. If you look, I had him in the 20s because of that injury. We don't know how he's going to come back from the injury.
Right.
I feel that can be a little bit of a problem. We saw Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah a couple of years ago. I thought the Jets would love a guy like that as an outside linebacker. Very similar player, by the way. And he fell all the way into like the 60s because of like a health problem. So it's something similar. I feel like could happen with Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith, I have him going to Baltimore. I feel like Baltimore, they're going to run out of receivers because I have multiple crazy trades. But as we wind down to within the last 10 minutes, I feel like we all have Bryce Young going 1. But there's not much left to discuss until this draft starts.
So I have a question. We'll be starting a new stream starting at 8 o'clock. We'll end this one.
So we're rolling this stream. So how the streams are going to
split this to be like the pregame?
So here's how I'm going to do it. I was thinking about it. Do you want to? But the way I was originally planning on doing this was doing it by guest. So you had the 7 to 9 with College Football Fanatic. Then we had Christian from 9 to 10, and then Wooly from 10 to 11. So I think we're going to keep rolling with this stream till 9. And then what's going to happen next? You're going to stay on with WIOR YouTube if you're watching right now. Just go over. We'll get a new link to get it going. You'll see it. You'll be able to watch it through, of course, the links in the Instagram on my Instagram, and of course on the Into the Stands Instagram. Excuse me. As we head to the last 10 minutes before the draft from Kansas City, as I believe they're about to do the national anthem. Is there any questions in the chat? Do we have anything in the chat today?
Well,
Probably not.
I guess I'll ask.
Yeah.
Looking at some of these mock drafts here on CBS, a lot of them, I'd say the most common pick that I'm seeing is C.J. Stroud to Indianapolis.
Interesting. Who do they have at 2 and 3 on that one?
Well, this is one. One, for example, has Bryce 1 going to Carolina, of course. Then Will Anderson 2nd.
Okay.
Then Christian Gonzalez at 3.
At 3. Wow. Christian Gonzalez I mean,
This is Ryan Wilson on CBS.
yeah, Ryan Wilson. I had a feeling. I looked at that one as one of my help me out with this a little bit. Christian Gonzalez. I mean, very similar to Sauce Gardner. I feel like, but he's shorter than Sauce because remember Sauce Gardner's like 6'3". I believe Gonzalez is like 6'1", around 6'1" ish. But Christian Gonzalez at 3.
Yeah.
This is why I said Arizona should move down to like 6 or 7 because they can get Christian Gonzalez because they need help in their secondary. Right. They might be trading Budda Baker. Who knows? I feel like Budda Baker could be another player traded tonight. I mean, there's possibility as that as well. But
yeah, I saw Christian Gonzalez obviously going, more around 8. But there's another cornerback that I really like, and that's like probably gonna fall to 12-ish. And that's Devin Witherspoon.
I love him.
Out of Illinois.
Yes.
I mean, when Michigan played Illinois, and I'm a huge Michigan fan, so I watched that game live and I rewatched it multiple times. Devin Witherspoon was an absolute lockdown corner. Like you could not throw anything his way and, really move the football all that much. So I really liked him.
We actually have breaking news from Adam Schefter. It's nothing related to the draft. It's just that the Eagles and Cardinals settled a tampering investigation today involving the hiring of Jonathan Gannon. So the Eagles traded pick number 94 in the draft and a 2024 5th-round pick to the Cardinals for pick number 66 in the draft.
Why? Okay.
Apparently, they tampered with the hiring of Jonathan Gannon.
Well, that's fun.
A couple of second.
So second and third round picks getting swapped. That's the first trade of the night. Is some second and third round picks getting swapped for tampering? What a way to start this! We're just moments away from the NFL draft starting from Kansas City. There'll be a little bit of flyover watching. By the way, we're watching from around, where my finger is pointing over there by the trophies.
So I guess the way we're going to do this is Chris will be designated whenever Goodell goes up to the podium, play the audio, and we'll hear the pick.
Yeah, I think that's the way we'll do it. But I mean, some sources have already confirmed Bryce Young going 1. It's already official. But I think the clock. Oh wait, no. What time is it? I scared me for a second. That clock timer.
52.
Yeah. But
yeah, I do actually want to continue the question I was asking about CJ Stroud because he's probably the one I've heard about the most, and I actually do really like what I've seen from him as well. And I'm a Giants fan, but the Indianapolis Colts I think are a cool team, and they've needed a quarterback.
I mean, they really haven't had one since Andrew Luck.
What do you think of Stroud to the Colts?
Stroud to the Colts would be a very interesting one. I mean, you saw my big game that I remember. I think you watched this game totally was Ohio State and Michigan. How he struggled a little bit in the second half, which may have concerned more people than originally expected because you saw him struggle in a couple of those games. He struggled against Northwestern. He struggled against Indiana for like a half and then turned up in the second half of the game. He turned up in some other games as well, and he hasn't really shown. But my big thing with Stroud is the inconsistency is still a problem. That's not really going to help him. But I still think CJ Stroud's a phenomenal talent. And other than that one test, like all you guys have mentioned so far, I feel like CJ Stroud should be the second best quarterback in the draft. With Richardson and him are very close, but Stroud playing, I feel like, longer in a way. And playing at Ohio State, which have played at a high level all season. I mean, you saw Florida; they struggled in games like Vanderbilt, Mississippi State. They struggled in the first half against Arkansas before coming back and beating Arkansas. They struggled against Will Levis and Kentucky. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you want to go safe, you go Stroud. But if you really want a guy who has a killer arm, can run, and be really inconsistent at points, I mean, my comparison for him was Josh Allen. Like they both very similar coming out of college, except Josh Allen came out of Wyoming. But I mean, Josh Allen had inconsistencies with accuracy for a while, and he's had it in the beginning of his NFL career, the first 2 seasons, and then year 3 just clicked with Sean McDermott, and then now Josh Allen is going to be making like $250-something million over the next 6 or so years. But I mean, right now, Stroud, I feel like a lot of potential to be elite in this league, especially in an NFC South that's like kind of trash. I don't know. Indy would be a weird fit for him, though. I don't know if Indy, like they have Michael Pittman, and they run the ball out with Jonathan Taylor, but I don't know. I feel like Tennessee or Houston would be better because I feel like they have more than one receiver. I mean,
I did see one mock draft having a Tennessee trade up for him.
I mean, I feel like they should be exploring it more, but I mean, you can get your opinion on Stroud now. I feel like
yeah,
only be fair.
Yeah, no. So I love Stroud. I'm a huge fan, but and it pains me to say that I am a fan because he was obviously Ohio State's quarterback, but. I want to bring up his interception to touchdown, or his touchdown to interception ratio is 7-1. 7. Yeah, so it was higher than Bryce Young's. He had 42 touchdown passes in 2022. He moves through his progressions well. His accuracy was at 66%. And the few games, the games that I noticed he had struggled with, the biggest one was Northwestern, where, to be fair,
It was like
it
and snow.
yeah, it was a game that was just set against a quarterback doing well. Just everything was working against him. And then I do notice he does drift in the pocket a little bit. So when that happens, but those are things that is something that can be drilled out of a quarterback. And most of those, most of the time, players come out of the draft with little idiosyncrasies, which is a great term, but little tweaks in their game that, most of the time they can get out. So I do really love CJ Stroud, and I think that he would be a great player for a lot of teams. So I really love it.
I mean, as we head down towards the final couple of minutes, what a scene in KC, by the way. I saw the setup they had, bro. It's amazing. I mean, first of all, I thought Kansas, I wish it stayed in New York. I want to go to these one day. I feel like everyone would want to go to one of these NFL drafts one day, but we're around 4 minutes before Carolina's officially on the clock, even though I think it's very predictable what they're going to do at the first pick. I mean, there's already rumors of the pick being official already, and
I feel like that's always the case in number 1 overall.
Yeah.
I think the only one where there was kind of some questions was when Baker Mayfield went number 1, because you didn't know that's like the very last day.
I remember quick story. I was at a baseball game for my brother. It was like I don't even remember what age group it was, and we had the draft on my phone, and it was like the Jets taking Sam Darnold. I was one of the few that wanted Josh Allen. I mean, I like risky quarterbacks like that. That's why I was a fan of Zach Wilson when we drafted him. I don't know what I'm about him now.
Not much of a fan anymore.
I saw his jersey in my house. It's kind of sad. I ran into someone today who said they have a Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson jersey. I feel bad for this man.
I thought you had a Zach Wilson.
I do. I was gonna if I had
burn that.
I was gonna wear it on stream. I almost lost a bet to wear it on stream today. That would have been really embarrassing. I should have. I don't have it though. It's at my house. But I got it for Christmas. It was very unfortunate. But that green room, by the way, what a scene! Like they just interviewed a Joey Porter Jr. for Penn State. There's Bijan Robinson.
I do love Radio City though. Like, just
have you been able to go to anything Radio City?
I haven't gone to any drafts, but the when you watch Radio City on TV, it's just there's also a lot of history at Radio City, so it's pretty awesome to see that. But no, I did see pictures of the setup in Kansas City, and Kansas City went all out for their setup. No, but they, with them winning the Super Bowl and all that, so might as well go all out. But no, I do. Radio City is my favorite venue by far.
I remember it was in Dallas, and then like those Eagles fans. I think one of my favorite draft moments was that they're making the Eagles pick, and the dude got booed off the podium, but. Yeah, but one of my things that I remember about tonight is, remember who announced the Giants pick last year?
Oh yes, that was Sam Prince from Make-A-Wish.
I know. By the way, Sam Prince. Quick story. Sam Prince and I were in the same broadcasting camp when I was during 2020. It was 2021, I think. We were in camp together. We were online, and he was in my group. Shout out to Sam. Great personality. He's a phenomenal character, and he was able to announce the Giants pick. And I think.
Yeah, that moment with Kayvon Thibodeau.
Oh my God, that was amazing. Who could have written a better script? But
absolutely. Last draft for the Giants, getting both Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal, top 10. I was very happy for once, watching the Giants draft, because I remember very well. Listen, 2019 when we drafted Daniel Jones, I wasn't very happy about it.
You traded down and drafted your boy Kadarius Toney.
Oh, and then when we drafted DeAndre Baker. In the the Giants had Eric Flowers, Eli Apple.
Dave Gettleman-esque. David Gettleman-esque drafting is a whole nother story.
Jerry Reese had some misses still.
Oh yeah. But I mean, the Jets last year hitting home runs with Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson, and Jermaine Johnson locking down Josh Allen for 2 games. I mean, Jermaine Johnson wasn't to emerge that much last season for the incredible defensive line that the Jets had last year with Quinn and Williams and company. But as we're coming down the last few minutes, I think we're last minute.
44 seconds ago.
44 seconds to go. 1 hour
I'm
in.
excited.
We're all excited, man.
I'm
I feel
excited.
like Chris, we have to turn it up when Goodell comes to the podium. When he's
We gotta boo this man.
yeah,
Chat, boo this man. I mean, I'll be booing him like screaming in my life. I don't know. I mean, we'll be seconds away from the start, the actual start of the NFL draft. Yeah.
I think Goodell's gonna come up once the timer's out.
I mean, he does. He runs the no fun league.
Oh yeah. I think though.
You know, nothing though is gonna match. I remember Johnny Manziel getting chosen.
Yes.
And his absolute flop in the NFL. Oh,
I remember there were Dallas Cowboys rumors that he was gonna go there. But
yeah.
Oh my God. I feel like there's been what was his name? There have been some. I mean, DeAndre Baker is the other one I was thinking of, but there have been some flops. But as we'll say, it is 8 o'clock. Lives are about to change as we are into the second hour of part 1 of the WIUR NFL Draft Special. Of course, I'm your host, Robbie Basil, alongside Colin and Chris and the College Football Fanatic. Thank you guys for watching. 1 hour in, 1 hour to go on part 1 as we are awaiting Roger Goodell momentarily heading to the podium to announce that the draft is underway. We're going to be with you for the entire first round. We'll have other guests.
I think we should go full
Straight on one stream? My thing was.
I think the only problem is uploading it.
Yeah, the
because
uploading
4
problems. That was
That's
the
what
problem.
I was thinking. You think a 2-hour stream would get on pretty quickly?
2-hour stream, I think would like take a little bit of the process, but you'd be able to see it around like 15 minutes or so.
Oh, yeah, that's fine then.
So I think like it's like each part you'll see with our guests, you'll see each part, so you'll be able to see our different reactions. I mean, these two are pumped for Wooly later. I mean, what's fun is that like, I mean, you're the only guest I didn't really get to know personally. I mean, well, you get to meet all these different shows. And I'll say this now because we're about to start. It's so awesome that we were able to collab with you and Cam. I mean, we were almost about to collab with some other shows. I mean, as we get to see Brock Purdy for a second there in the commercial. But it's so awesome that we had a chance to do this. So first of all, once again, thank you to the WIUR guys, the people running the building for actually letting us stay here as long as we need to.
And also thank you for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Actually, there's something I'd like to bring up with you guys here who focuses more on pro. What do you guys think about Coach Prime and him going to Colorado?
Absolute travesty. Granted, Colorado kind of trash. But I don't like the 41 players. What? I mean, you've never seen that before. That's outrageous. Outrageous.
I mean, I like what he was doing at Jackson State. Obviously, he left there trying to get a promotion, move up in the college football world. Still yet to be seen, but I kind of wanted him to stay at Jackson State, but obviously I don't think that was really realistic. But I'm excited to see what he does. I'm not sure. I don't think we've really seen a lot of. I mean, Mike Vrabel has been a success story in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Seen former players become head coaches. So let's see what he's made of.
All right, we are about to be ready to go as the NFL draft is about to be underway. Oh, we have been ready. I mean, my man went full suit for this. So, we just got used to wearing jerseys. I have to do this now. I have to do this now because remember on last episode, I was speaking a lot.
Show off your jersey.
Yeah, show off the jersey real quick right before we start the draft. I apologize to Knicks fans saying the Cavs were going to win in 5. Darius Garland is not that guy, and Donovan Mitchell and the Cavs have 0 depth. There you go. You're welcome. I stuck to my word this week, chat. You're welcome.
Thank you, Rob.
I mean, because I remember I had a feeling these two were on me earlier when we went to dinner. These two were on me saying I was not going to keep my word, and guess what? I did. But now that the NBA portion of the 15 seconds of NBA basketball is out the way, it is time for the main event as the sponsors are getting listed. But I have never been more hyped for a draft. I just want chaos like last year.
Yeah.
Everyone wants chaos like last year.
Well, this draft feels more unpredictable because, obviously you have Bryce Young and you have a few blue chip players, but I don't think you have as many blue chip players as you've had in the past. And I think that's made this draft feel like, it's made it feel like anything can really happen. So I'm really excited to see what does happen. in these picks. So yeah,
I just want the thing to start. I feel bad for you because you're not gonna be able to see as many picks with us. I mean, we have too many ads. Yeah, that's the one thing I don't like with the draft. Someone asked me before, like, what don't you like about the draft? How many ads there are? I mean, off topic. I feel like that's a little bit of a problem. I mean,
Especially once you get to day 2 and day 3, because you
Oh,
see
my.
get Colin, there's just no announcement. It's just the commercials.
No, like I remember watching day 3. I think it was like 20. It was last year, and you see the noise, the iconic NFL draft noise, and then it was no one's announcing the pick. They just show it on that one screen. So I that's the one of the few parts I don't
I
like.
mean,
But
it's all later rounds. I mean, I'm gonna go quick basketball reference here. Remember when Nikola Jokic got drafted? A Taco Bell commercial was airing.
oh yeah, I remember that actually.
So yeah, just the way it usually goes in the later rounds. But hopefully here, I think it's gonna be fun to see the commissioner call the players' names. We're still waiting for him to come on the podium, which I thought he usually came out earlier than this. Right?
I thought it came out at 8, but like, I mean, those companies gotta get their bag, as they say. But
how much do they pay for? Because I know the ads for
millions.
The are
It's gonna be like it has to be over $1 million for this. You would think. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
this is on ABC, ESPN, NFL Network, so there's definitely a lot of money involved in that.
Oh yeah, but the first pick I already found on socials is official, and there's been a call already done.
Really?
But we'll let you guys. Well, we won't leak the picks. I won't be saying like.
I kind of want to stay off Twitter for this. I feel like they kind of announced it a little bit earlier.
Well, here's the reason I would use Twitter for this is because if you have like specific notes on a player, this is when you go like use Twitter, say like, yeah, this dude got drafted with whatever the pick is. Get some notes on the dude. Like do like some last second research, find out who this guy really is. And I mean, here's another part I don't like about the draft. I feel like all you guys can test this. Like the sad stories.
Oh,
yeah.
2020, perfect example. I mean, because I remember watching a React video to this, like Kyber Ruiz. That was I think that's how you say it. And his dad, like it was a center from Michigan, and it had like a really sad story about his dad. And he's like I remember my dad and I saying, "Why does ESPN keep giving us these sad stories? Let people be happy that you got these players."
I have no idea the context behind it. I just remember hearing something like this. I remember one year I was watching the draft, and I heard a story where apparently someone who a player knew got struck by lightning.
Oh,
I heard a story
I
like
can't
that.
remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember the context behind it.
Ah, here we go again.
Crazy stories.
How rare that is to both be struck by lightning and have somebody that they knew drafted.
I mean, one of the trillion
Oh,
chances.
Here we go.
Oh, this is it.
Who this man?
They're probably gonna hear the booze right now.
Who the heck is that? I don't know what's going on already.
I mean, didn't he like say no to like pink shoes or something like that?
Might have.
I mean, I know that was like years ago. Like
oh
10
yeah, the
years
breast
ago or
cancer.
something like that. Yeah.
The booze have already begun to rain. Turn it up, Chris. Do you guys like, by the way, that the draft was held in a Super Bowl city? The team that won the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good thing?
Well, was that just by chance, or did they?
I don't know.
I think usually they plan out the draft spot like a year or two before.
Yeah.
I think one of them was actually in. I remember playing with one of them in Madden. Will Shield, I think, was in Madden. But yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that is this the first round or is this like the third round or something? Like this is like the stuff you hear in the third round.
Yeah. When like nobody's hyped for it.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Shout out Christian Hackenberg for no reason at all. Cause I remember when people were trying to hype them up for that pick,
Yeah.
and Oh, I thought that from Pat Mahomes this year. Why are they doing this?
To show off to the whole
Yeah,
entire
to show
world.
off.
Well,
His contract is absolutely insane.
It got cut down a little bit, but originally it was they cut it down just a little bit. I think it went down from 50 million to 45, but the original one it was 10 years, 500 million.
God.
Wild.
I mean, yeah, he totally didn't need that 20 million.
So let's hear a prediction real quick because we hear Patrick Mahomes speak. We'll speak over Patrick Mahomes. The draft hasn't started yet. Who do you think, Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow, who will be the next big quarterback paid? Or could it be even somebody different? Because there's a couple now. I mean,
well, I feel like Joe Burrow's the better quarterback.
Do you think
who gets paid first? I don't know. I think it just depends on when does a contract expire. I believe that
both of them just got their 5th-year options picked up.
Exactly. So
I said Tua, by the way. That was another one I was thinking of. Is that Travis Kelce? Dog. But Travis Kelce, I mean, what's weird to say is now, and I just want to talk about Travis Kelce for a sec. He's like, isn't he like 33?
Yeah, he's still doing it. You know,
he's that yeah. Finally.
Carolina Panthers are on the clock.
All right, so the NFL draft is finally underway after a nice, cool 11-minute delay. 9 minutes and 50 seconds. They're probably going to waste a whole 10 minutes so before we get the show on the road. So we all think it's going to be Bryce Young.
I definitely think so.
I mean, it has to be. I mean, Bryce Young is, I mean, something he's going to be Kyler Murray, something he's going to be a generational talent. But I don't know. I mean, we'll find out in about 10 minutes or so. But the fans, just the way this whole environment looks, it's already crazy. Madhouse in the stands. But 31 men's lives are about to change. As we're going to quickly go over that trade back a couple months ago now, as the first pick was traded to the Panthers from the Bears in exchange for the 9th overall selection and multiple other picks and DJ Moore.
By the way, I love that trade for the Panthers. I mean, I get that you gave up DJ Moore, but just, Frank Ray coming in now as the head coach, I feel that's a move you had to make. Because really, especially in that division too, right? Because we saw the Saints get Derek Carr, but say if Derek Carr kind of plays how he did the last couple of years, if Bryce Young kind of develops the way you think he will, you're going to have the best quarterback in the division for a while. So I think that's a great move.
It's interesting because, it's interesting. I'm ready to see what the rest of the NFC South does in this draft. I mean, the Saints have a pick. It's way farther down than I bet they would have liked because of that trade with the Eagles last year.
What are they doing there? I know they got Chris Olave, but now you look at the situation they're in now.
I mean, everyone's thinking it's going to be Bryce Young. If we look at some quick film of Bryce Young, I love how he can move, just evasive in the pocket. And then just making throws like that. That's crazy to me.
He's so creative.
I've heard people think, like, one of my professors that I know personally was like, yeah, there's not really many generational talents at or like big game changers at quarterback. I think there's really like 2 or 3 at least with Young, Stroud, and Richardson. Levis, who knows? He'll probably make me eat my words, and if he plays for like Indy and takes him like 7-10 to the playoffs.
Yeah, it definitely isn't the same as like the days of like Elway and Marino and stuff like that. But that's because the game was completely different. Passing was still pretty new in the sense that like you had a passing offense, not a running, and passing was like a supplement. And so it is really. Now it's like you have a passing offense and, you barely run the ball for most of these offenses. You're pretty lucky. Your running back is pretty lucky if he gets 100, yards a game. But it is now there's players like Joe Burrow and obviously I think Bryce Young is going to be a generational talent, and Justin Herbert. And you're going to see a lot of these names going on for a very long time. So I'm really excited to see, how the game changes the next, 5 to 10 years.
I agree 100%. But quickly looking for reference, you look at the recent Panthers quarterbacks. It's been a very interesting couple of players. You have PJ Walker, Sam Darnold, Teddy Bridgewater. There really hasn't been a real solution since Cam Newton's fall off. So I mean, maybe their solution is Bryce Young. This would be the first quarterback they've drafted in the first round, and probably since Newton. So, I mean, they're on the clock. I mean, I don't know what they're waiting for.
Gave Sam Darnold, they picked up his 5th-year option without him even playing, which I didn't know what they were doing.
That trade, by the way, do you know what that trade turned into? We then moved up with the New York Giants and selected a dog named I think you all know who he is. His name's Breece Hall. Yeah, we traded up. I believe it was with the Giants at like 37 or something, and we got Breece Hall, which originally I was at a dinner. I wasn't a fan of it because I thought we needed linebacker. He made me eat my words, that's for sure, for the 6 or 7 games that he played before tearing his ACL. And that
seems like a lot of Jets traffics make you eat your words.
Some of them have, yeah. I mean, looking at, by the way, that pass protection by Alabama in that one clip is crazy. 5 seconds, unreal. I don't know that you talk about creative playmaking. There's a former Jet speaking, Damian Woody, former Jet, big Jets fan himself. But speaking of the Jets real quick, because I want to mention this. Do you guys watch the show Get Up? With the host of, there's like in the beginning of the show on Get Up on ESPN, there's like a whole thing where they're doing a Jets chant to start the show on Wednesday. Yesterday, I was like, this is what we're coming down to. It was interesting. I liked it. I disliked it a little bit. I mean, that's the best way you can characterize something like this. But I feel like I'm just really interested to see what Houston does at this point. I think we all know what's going to happen.
That's gonna be the one pick that the first pick that I think is really up in the air is what are they gonna do? Are they gonna go defense or offense?
And also Arizona, we don't know if the team's gonna go for that trade. So you're gonna be sitting there for those 10 minutes waiting to see if that Cardinals logo is gonna change.
I mean, my thing was I remember another Jets reference here. The Jets had a chance to move down from the 3rd pick when it was I believe it was the Kyler Murray draft when we almost traded down instead of taking Quentin Williams. Remember that? So the Jets were trying to trade down, didn't like any of the prices, stuck with who they had as their number 1 and took Quentin Williams. That's worked very well for them. I'm interested to see if Arizona maybe does the same. Maybe with some of you guys have mentioned with Christian Gonzalez. Maybe Will Anderson if he doesn't go at 2. Maybe Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech could possibly going there as well. Like Jalen Carter. There's multiple defensive weapons, and I don't know. They could stay put. But if you're going full rebuild, you have to trade that pick. I feel like you have to because of how many picks you can get from it.
There's also, draft season is also, nicknamed lying season. And it's how well can you convince another team that your pick is going to be the one that's choosing the player they want. And how well can you convince, half a dozen teams of that so they can, get into a little bit of a bidding war for your pick and say, I need this player, so let me choose him. The Bears didn't do so well, but they came out of it with such a great takeaway. But Houston might come away with maybe even a better takeaway just because of where they are. And, people are going to be like, oh, who are you going to pick? So, it's going to be really interesting to see what they do with this, if they trade it or if they just take it.
Yeah. And the pick is in. We're just waiting for Goodell to go to the podium now. I mean, we're all assuming it's Bryce Young. The analysts see it as Bryce Young.
Yeah.
But as soon as he reads that card off, that first name off the cards,
if it's not Bryce Young,
there will be people losing their jobs. I remember people saying like it was Will Levis, like everyone deserves to be fired, even though he hasn't coached the game. As we get a quick look, I believe that is Bryce Young in the green room.
The only thing I can think of is the movie Draft Day.
Yes. Oh my.
Bo Callahan's.
Yes.
He just
drops to like 5-ish.
Yeah, that was so great.
He trades all of his first.
One of the best GMs of all time in that movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
The most unrealistic thing in that movie was Browns fan chanting Super Bowl after that.
That's a phenomenal reference. That's right. I mean, the Panthers have had the first pick once before, as they have mentioned. It was Cam Newton who will be the next number 1 pick? As here comes Roger Goodell.
There he is. Game time.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, there it is.
Well, there you go. Bryce Young goes first overall. Nick Saban's there. I actually didn't notice that. But Bryce Young going first overall, a quarterback out of Alabama. A lot of people like him. He was a 1 or 2 for a long time. And Bryce Young goes to Carolina in need of a quarterback. They've added receivers after trading DJ Moore. Remember that they got Adam Thielen and company. They've got a new running back in Miles Sanders. I'm interested to see how this new offense looks for them. I mean, they on defensively.
Miles Sanders is an interesting one because obviously we know that in Philadelphia, running backs are obviously going to be better with that O-line. But he's still a guy who showed a lot of talent. So I think obviously pairing him with Thielen, pairing him with Miles Sanders, guys who have NFL experience, that's crucial, especially for a rookie trying to transition into the league.
I mean, for those who didn't get to watch your pregame, talk to us a little bit about Bryce Young.
Well, Bryce Young is obviously a super creative player, and he's a good decision maker. He has a 6-to-1 touchdown to pass ratio. He has experience in extremely high pressure situations. And I'm really excited. He moves it through his progressions well. He has great anticipation. Obviously, also arm angles that he can throw the football. He showed that in multiple games that he can throw the ball at super interesting arm angles. And the only downside, or there's a couple of downsides, but the only one that's truly serious is that he's a little small. He's on the smaller side. He's about 5'10" and about 185. So that could possibly suggest he'll be injury prone, but he could also be a rubber band and just, really take it. The only other thing I saw was that he doesn't always set his feet when he throws the football. So, but I also, you mentioned Nick Saban being there, and I have heard rumors that he and Nick Saban have a very close relationship, that it's not necessarily father-son, but it's like very close mentor and very close mentee relationship. And I really like that, because that's what a college coach is supposed to be. He's supposed to be that mentor towards his players. And I really like that he's there supporting Bryce Young. So I think that's really interesting.
And talking about that Alabama coaching staff, also having Bill O'Brien as his coordinator, I feel was big as well, because O'Brien's obviously had so much experience in the NFL. So I think that kind of transitioning into Frank Reich's system is going to be kind of, I think, easier for him, especially already having that experience with Bill O'Brien, who was also successful in the league. Now he's the OC of the Patriots. But yeah, Bryce Young, being able to extend plays, obviously he was the guy who everyone was talking about. I remember even a couple of years ago, people were saying that he's the top quarterback in this class, and sure enough, there he is, the number 1. So the Panthers get their guy. Let's see how it turns out for him.
Before I tell you, Chris, they have a projected contract out for this man. This man's going to get paid more than Trevor Lawrence by about $1 million. So that's the projected contract out. It's from. Hold your hats, folks. He's making $40 million a year over 4 years before the options picked up. Which that option, by the way, it's gonna be around $12 million. So 5 years, $52 million. Carolina gets their guy, their first number 1 overall pick since Cam Newton. Chris.
I mean, I can't say, it's been that long since we've had a obvious number 1 choice in the NFL draft, of course, last year. But, 2 years ago with Trevor Lawrence. But, a great pick from Carolina, right? We were just talking about it. It was the clear pick, the obvious one. And they've been struggling for a while to find that guy. And they finally, hopefully, have that in Bryce Young. Now, Texas, their pick is in.
The Texans pick is in. I mean, the big thing was. So go ahead. Sorry, excuse me.
Quarterback, maybe?
I think this could be quarterback. I think it's going to be Stroud or Richardson. It would be very shocking to me. Richardson would shock me. I think they do go safe probably with Stroud. And if they go with Stroud, don't be surprised at number 12 if Smith and Jigba does go at 12, wide receiver. Combining him with CJ Stroud, I feel like it would be very crucial. I'm interested to see though. This is a question probably for later on. When will the chaos start like last year? Will we have that chaotic moment? Because remember, the first big trade up was with the Lions. Could they trade down and start the chaos this year? I mean, it'll be interesting though, but I feel like right now this pick will probably be, I feel like it's going to be CJ Stroud. And if it's CJ Stroud, 1, this could send the teams needing defense into a little bit of a frenzy of possibly trading up for that 3rd overall pick. As we have the pick is in, we're just waiting for Roger Goodell to address the podium.
Kind of, as we were saying before, kind of sets the whole draft in motion, whatever direction they go for here, because it's going to be, I think, look very different if Will Anderson gets taken, because then you still have free quarterbacks on the board for that Arizona pick. I think the Arizona pick's really going to be important to see who trades up there, but I mean, it's gotta wait and see what happens here at Houston. But I think CJ Stroud's the pick. I think that's what they're gonna go for. I just can't imagine you punting away another year and just opting instead to go for Will Anderson and wait for Caleb Williams. But let's see.
I was even seeing some mocks where Tyrese Wilson goes first.
He has jumped up a lot.
Yeah, he has jumped up so much. When I was at the beginning of this draft cycle, he was like 15 max, and now he's talking
Ranging from 4 to 8.
Yeah, ranging from anywhere from there. So it really is that crazy. And I think depending on whether or not Arizona trades, I think that could be the start of
I agree.
Of the craziness of the draft.
I'm interested to see though if Houston does go straight. I'll talk about that in a moment. Here's the 2nd pick of the draft.
And
there goes
quarterback and CJ Stroud. Obviously, there's been concerns about the test score being low. There's been concerns about just in general Ohio State.
The agent struggle with Deshaun as well.
Absolutely, we've seen Ohio State quarterbacks in the past not really translate to the NFL, but the Texans get their guy for the future, a new quarterback for D'Amico Ryans in a system in Houston.
I mean, it's a very interesting pick here. I mean, you remember not that long ago, we had the controversy with him having the same agent as Deshaun Watson's, possibly setting up Anthony Richardson to possibly be this pick, or Will Levis. But right now, CJ Stroud going to be that guy in Houston. Interested to see now what weapons will they give him and what moves they could possibly do with their remaining draft picks. I mean, talk to us a little bit about CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I mean, CJ Stroud is obviously one of the best players in this draft, if not the 2nd best player. And so he has great size. His accuracy is incredible. He's at 66, which is really good for a quarterback. 7-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. So you can obviously see his decision making in that area is good in college. Does it translate to the NFL? Who knows? I don't put as much stock in the S2 as I think some people do. The only struggles that I saw this past season was that his game against Northwestern was not good, but we talked earlier about that game was set against a quarterback. So that was a very tough game it would be a tough game for any quarterback whatsoever. Wind, like rain and sleet and stuff like that. And he does drift in the pocket a little bit, which could open him up to taking hits and things like that in high pressure situations. So he could have some consistency issues there, but I do really like this pick. And if they do go wide receiver at I think it's 12. Yeah. If they do go wide receiver at number 12, and they pair him up with Jackson Smith and Jigba, that connection that they made at Ohio State could be really interesting to see how that progresses in the NFL. Because there's a lot of upsides to Jackson Smith and Jigba.
And unlike Will Levis, who had a very bad touchdown interception ratio, we saw in 13 games there, CJ Stroud, 41 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So obviously the stats are there. It's just waiting to see if it translates to the next level. Now, the knocks on CJ Stroud is that, sometimes he may hesitate to use his legs on the move, but he is probably the most prototypical NFL quarterback in this class. He also has an arm strength. He's also accurate. So looking forward to see what he can do in Houston.
I mean, it's weird to see right now the Cardinals on the clock. They are not looking likely. They're not looking like they're going to move their picks. So
they could go to the last second.
They might bring it to the last second, but they're probably hearing offers. But who may want to trade up for Anthony Richardson? Who may want to trade up for Will Anderson? Because I feel like this would be Will Anderson right here or Jalen Carter. If this is Jalen Carter, this will send the draft into a frenzy for sure.
Don't forget
Richardson as well. I don't think they go quarterback here. I mean, they have Kyler Murray under that long-term contract.
It's either Will Anderson or gets traded.
Or I think Jalen Carter could be this pick still. Interior defense. I mean, this is the definition of a odd start. The first pick was predictable. Second pick, not as predictable. But this pick, I feel like, is going to set the tone. Will this be the true game changers at the defensive line, or will this be traded? That's just what we're waiting for right now. And
if it gets traded, I could see Richardson going, even though I don't love Richardson. But I could see a good amount of these teams trying to trade up. It really depends on what Arizona is looking to get, and they really I think they will go down to the last second before they make a final decision. But I'm really excited to see which direction they go, and if this draft craziness does start here, or whether it falls a little lower.
Oh wait, we may have a trade.
Oh.
Wow, the Texans have traded for the third pick.
Wow.
So they're going to go defense as well.
Yeah.
So the Houston Texans, for those who are just tuning in, have traded for the number 3 selection to move up.
No one saw
this coming.
No one. Oh my
Chaos has begun.
Being able to pair Will Anderson and CJ Stroud, that's.
Or could this be Carter? I don't know.
Carter, but
I think it's likely they're gonna go edge, because I just think edge is more value in the program than defensive tackle.
So
it's confusing
to get the second quarterback in the draft and the consensus number 1 player in the draft, whoever they feel that is. I mean, that is quite the haul for.
It's confusing though that they haven't changed the graphic yet.
Oh, yeah, they take a little bit for that.
Thanks, Rappaport. Ian Rappaport breaking the news to us live.
A lot of praise to the Texans.
They want to contend. They want to make moves. And now everyone's going to probably realize it now.
I think this is going to depend a little bit on what they gave up to get that.
What? Let me see if I.
Probably got traded.
Yeah. No. Obviously, they swapped picks, but I'm saying what in addition to that.
The Texans are trying to become the new Detroit Lions and make moves and be aggressive in the draft. And as their pick is now in, who will it be? I don't know. If you are the Cardinals, I don't know if it could really mess up trading down like this. I think they traded down too far with the needs that they have. But D'Amico Ryans wants to be aggressive. The GM.
The thought process was for them.
For which team?
The Cardinals in particular.
I feel like if you're the Cardinals, you would move down. I thought they would stay in the top 10 and get whatever you can for it. As much value as you can get pick-wise. I don't know. But this is a home run for the Houston Texans, whoever. We said they might not even take a quarterback an hour ago.
If they're looking for a player like Miles Murphy, I think he will be there at number 12.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So if they're looking to take an edge rusher, definitely Miles Murphy will definitely still be on the board. Will almost definitely be still on the board. And there's no telling with craziness, but Miles Murphy will still be there. Van Ness will still be there.
Breaking news: Adam Schefter tweeted the package. So the Cardinals got pick number 12, pick number 33, their first round pick in 2020.
Whoa, hello!
First round pick in 2024. The Texans get number 3 and 105. So they gave up a future first round pick.
Wow!
So
they are going all in.
This tells you they really love whoever they're getting here. They really feel that this guy is a surefire.
What game changer will Houston be getting next?
I think it's Anderson.
This has to be Anderson. You cannot be treating him this much for Carter.
Give it up.
Here we go.
Round pick next year, though. Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
That's insane.
Home run for Arizona. Okay. Thanks, Mel Kiber, for confusing everyone.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So they get their pass rusher. what two game changers? What a win for Houston, unless they like suck again. But I don't think. I mean, I have a feeling they might trade up again. I mean, they may not have a second round. I think they might have one
Looking at
second
the
round pick
Mariners
right now.
unsuspected, though, right? Because I think Kyler Murray's going to miss the beginning next year, or at least a good portion of it. So they could also be drafted high, and you don't know how Houston's going to turn out. So they could have two very high picks in next year's draft, which I don't know if they will, but if they want to move off Kyler Murray, they could be in play for a Caleb Williams.
Absolutely.
Still yet to be seen, of course, but wow. I mean, no one was expecting that. That's changed the draft a lot.
What? I mean, I feel.
Everyone imagined if there was going to be a trade up, it was going to be for Richardson or going to be for Levis. Seeing it for Will Anderson, that is wow.
Yeah, I really like that.
So Will Anderson, for those who don't know, the pass rushing threat out of Alabama, we've known about him all year long. He was projected at one point to be the number 1 overall pick and the number 1 overall player in the draft. But I feel like he's one of the most NFL ready players. I mean, a couple of years ago, you saw Brian Burns.
Commissioner,
yeah,
Will Anderson's very excited.
I mean, you can't blame the dude. I mean, he's going to be hopefully a big time threat as we get to look a little bit. I mean, they list him as a linebacker or an edge. He is a game changer. He's a definition of one around the edge. And we're looking at a little bit of him against George, but I feel like you'd be the perfect one to describe Will Anderson to us.
He's definitely an edge rusher. He's very position specific. I don't view him as like an outside linebacker, like being able to do that type of, going across the field and playing everywhere on the field. He's not that type of player, but he definitely has very high level athletic, profile. He's built very well. He's dominant at run defending. He's so good at that. And you saw that as he played most teams in the SEC. And he was obviously a Heisman candidate. He obviously had great sack production, and his character, Nick Saban talks about his character a lot, and he says that he is just such a leader on his team, and I think he could bring that to the Houston Texans defense and really add on that. And I think he could develop a little more, though, as a little more nuance in his pass rushing, so a couple more moves that I think could be useful. But he is definitely the most pro-ready defensive player that I've seen in this draft by far.
By the way, that's going to be a clip on Instagram. Everyone's reaction to that straight up. I'm writing it down. I mean, what a win for Houston. But now we move on to Indianapolis, another AFC South team that doesn't really have a direction. Could this be Will Levis? I mean, they've been very intrigued with Will Levis as of late. So, I mean, with all the rumors about him possibly going 1 and all the betting odds changing, I don't know.
This would also be the Colts' first round quarterback since Andrew Luck.
Yes, their first round QB since Luck.
Absolutely hit on Andrew Luck, which was expected, but and they've struggled in the quarterback game a little bit since. Yeah. Basically, they looked at. I remember I heard somebody say they looked at age. They went like, go to Madden, go to age, and then go to the most expensive quarterback and get that guy.
Well, the pick is in for Indianapolis. We'll hear about them in a moment. But I just want to give you guys the money that these dudes are going to be making. For context, Will Anderson's going to be making around 9.5, almost close to 10 million a year. And then CJ Stroud, let's look at him real quick. He's going to be making just under 10 million a season. So these guys,
murder money right there.
I mean,
that's money you kill for.
Yeah. I mean, these dudes have worked all their lives, and their lives are changing here tonight with 10 million with multiple big figures getting handed to them this evening with the 5th-year options possibly as well. But Will Anderson and CJ Stroud being those game changers so far for Houston. And guess what, folks? We're just getting started. Coming up, by the way, for reference, we still have Christian, who's been on this show multiple times, and Cameron Woolley coming on later tonight. But we still got College Football Fanatic for a little bit more. Do you see this pick as being Will Levis? I mean, out of Kentucky?
I think that it's hard because Kentucky was not very good.
Yeah.
And Will Levis was a bit more of an issue at Kentucky than I think people want to admit. But I did hear a lot about Kentucky or about Will Levis and in his connection to what is it to the Colts. Sorry, my brain was a little but he had so many turnovers that I'm like, do you really want to take a risk? I'd much rather take a risk on an Anthony Richardson than I would on a Will Levis. So I'd really be wary about Will Levis, but this is a Colts team that was fairly decent this past season, or I shouldn't say fairly decent. They didn't have as many needs as like Chicago, who just needed everything. So I think quarterback is going to be the way they go, but it's going to be between Will Levis and Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So Anthony Richardson is the selection, the younger prospect, similar build, similar stat lines from this season, but he has the least amount of starts than anyone in this draft at the quarterback position. The risk is there. Indianapolis, interesting landing spot. Maybe
I don't think any mock drafts have him going to Indianapolis.
I don't think so.
Will Levis. This is a pick not many people saw coming, but putting him in the stage-striking offense, we obviously saw him lead the Eagles to the Super Bowl. We saw how Jalen Hurts really thrived in that system. So maybe he sees Anthony Richardson kind of like a Jalen Hurts. Maybe he can progress into that. Obviously Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick. He was a little bit of a raw prospect coming in, but he was able to develop. So looking to see if Anthony Richardson can do the same thing.
I mean, now the wonder is, does Indianapolis sign a free agent quarterback? Someone like, I mean, not like a Carson Wentz or Matt Ryan, but someone.
They have Gardner Minshew.
If Gardner Minshew did, that was who I was forgetting about. So, I mean, they have people who maybe help Richardson develop, but his youth, his size, you cannot pass on that. And Indianapolis gets a solid selection. And now, this is one of those, we're heading towards the portion now where multiple teams can go multiple directions. Now, with Richardson gone, I don't think Seattle would go quarterback now. They kind of don't need to, and I don't think they should. I feel like this is the pick where I feel like we might see a team move up. I mean, Seattle loves Jalen Carter with the news of Pete Carroll today. So Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle, the big interior threat out of Georgia, I feel like could be the next selection in this draft. A lot of people like him as the next selection in this draft. As we look at Anthony Richardson's mobility, his speed. Remember, he ran a sub-4 540, which is unheard of at the quarterback position. As we get to see, I mean, you talked about a little bit of his inaccuracies, but I mean, I think a lot of people, if you know a little bit of college football, that first Saturday night game of the year with Anthony Richardson going up against ranked Utah and Dalton Kincaid and absolutely cooking in the second half with some spin moves, some bit of everything. He's just able to do it all. I mean, he's also that power threat. He also has power with the runs. This is one of the plays I was talking about. Spin move, absolute dot to the back of the end zone. He brings the energy, the strength, just all. Maybe the accuracy is a little bit of trouble, but watch out, because this dude may become the next Josh Allen, I feel like, with the size, a little bit of raw talent still. Indianapolis should be happy. First round quarterback in a long time. Probably since Andrew Luck. By the way, a fun stat that we didn't mention earlier. Bryce Young's the highest taken Alabama quarterback ever. He's the only one to ever go with the number one pick. He's the only one to ever go number one. Highest picked one since Tua Tagovailoa at number 5. So, I mean, elite mobility. I know.
That is really surprising.
And you want to talk more about Richardson? His elite mobility, I mean, as they're showing on ESPN.
Unless you consider Hurts an Alabama quarterback. Oh no, sorry, Hurts went in the second round. My bad.
Yeah, no, I thought there was like another ex-Alabama quarterback that did something, but I mean, Donovan McNabb's an interesting comparison because like Donovan McNabb, like I don't know, but arm strength. That's the only thing. That's the big asset.
I remember watching a video of him on Instagram where he like hit the top of the top of the training facility. Yeah, and I'm like, why would you do that on purpose? Like that just makes no sense. It might not. It might not have been.
We might have been. We don't know.
Yeah, but I'm like, if that is on purpose, that just makes you look dumb. But, but I think if he develops his decision making a little bit, and that'll obviously cut down on his inaccuracy and his interceptions. He could really he could really develop into a phenomenal quarterback. So I'm really excited to see his career and see how that progresses. I mean, but he could also turn into like a Ryan Leaf, you know, yeah, where, you know, it's a complete bust. But, you know, I like that there's been craziness, but I'm not high on Anthony Richardson as a player at the moment.
Only time will tell Richardson. Now, the Seattle Seahawks are running down the clock a lot.
Yeah.
Very odd. Could they be exploring moving down? Remember, they have a decent amount of draft capital, but could this be Las Vegas's time to possibly move up? Remember, they have Jimmy Garoppolo. Could they possibly be moving up for a quarterback? I mean, there's around 2 minutes and 40 seconds left of Seattle being on the clock. Could we see another Ian Rappaport bomb and see, like, yeah,
or
Adam Schefter bomb?
I did just see a mock draft. I was looking on CBS. Chris Trapasso had Anthony Richardson going to the Colts.
Interesting.
Instead, trading up with the Cardinals to get that pick.
Who do you guys think would trade for the Seattle pick though?
Vegas.
Okay.
If they're desperate for a quarterback, Vegas has to be it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you really don't see many quarterback hungry teams. I mean, Tennessee could be the other one right now. I mean, they might need a quarterback because they're losing confidence in Malik. I bet they want to move Tannehill. His contract is so bad, but like, I mean, if you want to go younger, I mean, this is your time unless you want to move down, maybe get Hooker in the second round. I don't know. I mean, would be the time to strike if you're Tennessee.
Just want to say very quickly for reference, the only reason why Seattle is picking here because of the Russell Wilson trade.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Had that pick.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I still am just so surprised that Russell Wilson, you know, the situation in Denver has turned out the way that it has. But we still have to wait to see what Sean Payton does. But yeah, man, you know, we see that too with Detroit coming up. That's also the Los Angeles Rams pick, which I mean, didn't work. I mean, they got, obviously, that was a Matthew Stafford trade. Ended up winning the Super Bowl out of that. But it just goes to show you how sometimes maybe giving up these future first-round picks can backfire on you. So we still have to wait and see what happens going forward with that Arizona and Houston trade.
I mean, I believe the Rams have a first-round pick next year. I don't know. I mean, I know there's teams that have, like, I think the Rams have a first-round pick next year. But
they got it from Jalen Ramsey.
Oh, wait. The Texans have a first-round pick next year. I forgot they have another first-round pick from the Deshaun trade. I believe that's what the first-round pick came from.
So I guess in that mentality, maybe you don't think it's that big.
I completely forgot about the Deshaun trade and why he wasn't there.
God. That when
Holy
that
fleece.
news broke,
Holy fleece. Shout out to the Texans for knowing how. Okay, they did make a pick. Okay, well.
We assume
Jalen Carter, but what we've learned today, you can't assume anything at this point.
When that news of the Deshaun trade broke, and I saw what they gave up for Deshaun, who was in the midst of a lawsuit, I was like, what are you doing to the Browns? I was like, this is such a bad.
For a long time, but,
yeah.
They won their first playoff game in a long time with Baker Mayfield. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a very interesting situation with everything going on. Is that Christian?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let me just talk about this. Everyone here is going to be wearing this dude's wearing a Rangers jersey. What are we doing? A Rangers jersey? I mean, we got the Knicks. We got
playoffs. I mean,
fair enough.
I mean,
Though the Rangers, I believe, are losing right now, so I don't feel like the jersey is. I mean, we got a Devils fan coming later with Wooly, so that'll be a fun one. But the pick is in for Seattle. We're currently in commercial break. That's why the pick hasn't been announced yet. But the next team on the clock would be Detroit. If this isn't Jalen Carter, then Detroit's in trouble. They could draft Christian Gonzalez. They may be a team to draft him because remember their cornerbacks. They just traded Jeff Okudah to the Falcons, which rules out possibly a cornerback for the Falcons. Do you think that they could go corner with Christian Gonzalez at 6 if this is Jalen Carter?
Yeah, I definitely think they could because they did just get rid of Okudah. But I
Garner Johnson. That's about it.
Yeah, so I think they could be looking for somebody to be on the opposite of him. Gonzalez is obviously good. Witherspoon is also another player not to be overlooked. So I think, they could go either way. More likely to Gonzalez, though. He's generally considered like the number one, but I am a huge fan of Witherspoon being from, a Big Ten team, and it's great.
I mean, as we head, as we're about to hear the announcement of the number 5 pick, as the Seahawks fans are in full force out there in Kansas City, as Roger Gale heads to the podium, Let's hear who will head northwest to Seattle. Wow! So they go secondary to go with Tariq Woolen. That very interesting move. You talked about Devin Witherspoon. Very interesting pick there with Devin Witherspoon. Interesting move. I mean, used a second-ranked corner in a lot of mock drafts and just rankings in general. And Devin Witherspoon, I mean, you saw in the media how much Jalen Carter was loved by Pete Carroll, and they don't go. A very perplexing move for some. But talk to us a little bit about Devin Witherspoon.
Yeah, Devin is one of my favorite players in this draft, as I've said, and his experience is, and he has huge experience and success in man coverage. He also has great ball catching skills for interceptions. I believe he has more interceptions than Gonzalez did this past season. He is a phenomenal tackler and a hard hitter. You get hit by Witherspoon, you're like, I don't know if I want to get up. And he also has special teams experience on his resume. So they could be looking at that as well. Seattle could be looking at on that as well. But his lean frame offers a few questions about, wide receivers who are bigger and very powerful. And he can be overeager trying to get to the ball at times, and that burns him more often than not. So keeping him disciplined in that backfield is going to be very important. And it's also a question of, will teams try to box him in the slot and keep him there? So, but he definitely is one of the best players, if not the best corner in this draft. And I really enjoyed him at Illinois watching those games. He was always entertaining.
So I need to ask, because it seemed like for so long, according to most mock drafts, Christian Gonzalez was the number one.
Yeah.
quarterback. So why would you say Seattle would pick Witherspoon over Gonzalez when you compare the two prospects?
I look at one, I don't think Gonzalez has as much special teams experience as he has, and so that is a plus in Witherspoon's column. But it's also, I believe Witherspoon actually has more interceptions than Gonzalez.
It's very close.
It's like 4 and 3, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah, and so also Witherspoon's success in man coverage is unparalleled. And so I really liked that. His zone coverage is also not something to, scoff at either. It's just he's very well known in man coverage. So I think those are reasons that, you go Witherspoon over Gonzalez. So I did really like this pick, and I didn't expect it, but I'm very happy with it.
Yeah. As we head now to Detroit, could we see Jalen Carter fall even further? I mean, this could be Christian Gonzalez. And for Vegas, who I don't even know, did they need defensive line? I mean, do you think a defensive lineman would fit with Vegas?
With Vegas, maybe not. But I could actually see the Lions going like Tyrese Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think it's less likely considering that
they don't really edge.
They had an edge across from Hutchinson that I still can't remember his name, but he had great production. So I with this, it could be Gonzalez going back-to-back corners.
So I believe that this Lions pick here, that will be the end of our first segment of this.
I believe heading towards, it will likely be our last pick. Friends, once again, thank you for joining.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You've been able to watch chaos so far.
Yeah, and I'll definitely keep up with it.
Let me just say
home.
Personally, because I'm not a big college football guy, it's great having your perspective.
Oh,
being a big college football guy. So obviously, once again, thanks for coming on.
It's been a lot of fun being on here.
Yeah, we appreciate it as always. Having our first guest being a college football guy, we couldn't have asked for a better first guest.
In the future, if you ever want to come back on Into the Stands, you're
absolutely. I'll definitely, and I'll probably, at some point, I'll probably invite you guys onto my show.
That'd be fun.
So I have, it is great, and I do have this WIUR channel or show on this channel, but I also have it on my own channel at YouTube of the same name, College Football Fanatics. But this has been a lot of fun because the craziness of the first few picks has been unparalleled in my opinion. Yeah, that was
trade. Devin Witherspoon going at 5, Richardson going at 4. Who knows? I mean, maybe now my question is: does Vegas find a way to get Levis at 7?
Maybe, yeah. If they really want a quarterback, I don't think the Lions are going to go quarterback. I really don't think
Adam
so.
Schefter tweeted, breaking news, Arizona is trading up to number 6. Arizona up to number 6.
Chaos continues. For those who did not just hear Colin, you can reread the report.
One more big trade before the college football fanatic left.
As always.
Still waiting to hear the
That's
trade
how you finish the first stream.
Still waiting to hear the trade details from Schefter. I just see he tweeted that 2 minutes ago. But,
wow.
I mean, we're in freaking commercial. I mean, that we weren't able to hear the trade yet, but so right now, for those who don't know, the Cardinals originally traded down to 12. Now they're moving back up to 6. If you didn't hear my mock draft special, I did say this would happen with another team later on with Tampa Bay. I originally had Tampa Bay do something similar, but wow, could this be not Will Levis? Could this be Jalen Carter now? Maybe they were targeting Jalen Carter at 3, and now with
they want Christian Gonzalez, Tyree Wilson. We
yeah,
say.
Yeah, this is.
Let's hear the details from Schefter. Chris, can you turn it up a little bit? Interesting. So offensive tackle could this be the first offensive tackle off the board and really throw off the.
Unless you really have your guy, would you have needed to trade up for that?
Probably not. No, I wouldn't. I would have expected that they would have stayed at 12. I mean, the only team that I can see really going for an offensive tackle is Chicago, and you still have 3 on the board. You still have, if Chicago takes one, you still have 2 good offensive tackles on the board.
So I'm interested to see. So what does that say, Chris? What did the Lions get?
Lions are getting 2023 12th overall pick and the 2nd round pick number 34.
Okay, so they're getting 2 picks, the 34th pick and the 12th selection, in exchange for the Cardinals to move up.
Do you like that for the Lions, getting the 2nd round pick for moving down 7?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good move for them. I mean, right now with the Cardinals playing, getting the extra 1st round pick next year. I mean, if they want to be bad, I mean, like, who knows? Who will be the next big name possibly for the Cardinals is the question now, as the Cardinals fans who are probably confused for a moment. But could this be offensive tackle or could this be Jalen Carter? I mean, which offensive tackle would you take first overall? I mean, let's see the pick first.
Yeah.
Wow. So they do go offensive tackle. So Jalen Carter continues to fall, but they go Paris Johnson Jr. A lot of people had him at the first offensive tackle at Ohio State. You were able to watch him a little bit. What do you like about Paris Johnson? It's your last pick with us tonight.
I really like his size, and I also think that he is he's a player that is going to be very dominant. But I do want to say that there's a difference between a 22-year-old and his strength and a 27-year-old and his strength on the offensive line. So it might take a few more years to develop, but he's definitely a player that you can, stick in. His athleticism and coordination, as well as his ability to get shoved off and then recover is pretty incredible. He has an insanely high ceiling, as well as an excellent baseline for his for his base. He could improve on strength and develop better hand technique. And he only had 1 season at left tackle, so that could also be a reason for concern. But he was also the first tackle that I thought was going to be taken off the board, and the one that I really wanted Chicago to get. So yeah, no, I think that he is phenomenal. He's a really great pick.
Well, unfortunately, that will be the end of part 1 of our stream. Make sure to stay tuned with WIUR, as don't go away. Part 2 comes up in a moment, as Christian Isak is right outside outside in the hallway. We'll grab him right for you guys. Don't go away. We'll be back in a moment. as that's the end of the part one. Once again, thank you for joining us.
Awesome.
We'll see you guys in a moment.